The Crow is one of Bungie's most well-written characters in my opinion. They got us to hate a character named Uldren in Forsaken because, well, he killed Cayde, one of our best friends and closest guardians. We then got sweet revenge by taking out Uldren with Petra, only to learn months later that he got resurrected by a ghost and was now a guardian just like us. This was a super crazy plot twist by Bungie, and now our Guardian is friends with this character. They did things like drink together, and we also freed him from the spider's claws. We're friends now. But what happens if the Crow begins to learn who he was, and who will tell him? He's bound to figure it out at some point, right? Thanks to some new lore for Season of the Chosen, it looks like Crow is going to venture to the city with a new look. Let's talk about how Crow may find out about his past and what this new move to the city may entail.
Wait, not like this. Look at him, he's finished. Even with everything he's done, we can't just—
You have no idea what he's done! If Cayde was here, I know what he would do, Guardian. Do you?
Welcome back everybody, hope you're having an amazing day, and let's jump right into this lore. So I'm going to start by reading a card where Glint, which is Crow's ghost, and the spider are having a conversation about the Crow's past in Uldren Sov. And then we'll talk about the interactions other guardians have had with him, and then if someone told Uldren, about his past, these are the things that he would know, including things like Mara, the father of the Scorn, killing Cayde, and a bunch of other stuff. So let's read this card first. "Tell me about Crow," Spider said without looking up. Glint flew closer and caught sight of himself on a small monitor. He saw a mosaic of security feeds, corridors in the tangled shore, a strange workshop, Crow's quarters, before Spider collapsed the images and turned to address him directly. "How has our friend been performing in the field?" "Quite well," Glint answered. "He's feeling more confident while—" "Good," said Spider dismissively. He plucked a cracked chunk of seraphite from the current of air as it passed, ran his claws over it, then placed it back in the beam. "Has anyone told him?" Glint didn't have to ask for clarification, not outright. He knows he wasn't a good person. He gathered that much from the guardians who killed him, but he hasn't heard his old name. Spider gave a phlegmy grunt of contentment. "And there haven't been any indiscretions?" Glint's eye flickered and he made an almost imperceptible processing noise. Spider leaned forward. "Do you have something to tell me?" "It's actually a funny story," Glint said. "He ran across a warlock who recognized him as an Awoken, and she—" "He was seen?" Spider shouted, striking the side of a passing crate. A chorus of mewling squeaks rose from within. Glint watched as it floated out of sight. "Not seen," Glint said. "She noticed his skin under his gauntlet. He told me he didn't want to risk further exposure, so he left." "Then he's lying, Glint, even to you." The light in the spider's eyes seemed to dull. One of his smaller arms scratched irritably at his side. "It's only a matter of time," Glint said softly. "People talk behind his back. There are rumors of someone named Calco who has been following him. He's heard the Scorn call him Father. We'll eventually figure it out. I gave him rules for a reason." "Following rules is counter to his nature," Glint said blithely. Then he noticed Spider's scowl. "Frustrating, I know. He could ask anything of the next guardian he sees and I couldn't stop him." Spider growled. "You will stop him." "The thing is," said Glint, "someday he'll realize who he was doesn't matter. What's important is who he is now." "Who he is," Spider hissed, "is my investment. I'm counting on you to remind him of that fact." A damaged crate floated past, loose glimmers swirling in the gravity beam behind it. The little ghost was quiet. He floated unsteadily for a moment, then rose to the spider's eye level. "Baron Spider," Glint said respectfully, "in his short new life, Crow has faced more than his share of cruelty. He learned what it is to truly suffer." Glint mistook Spider's contempt for contemplation and continued. "He isn't afraid of being hurt anymore. If you want him to stay," he said helpfully, "you'll need to offer him more than threats." Spider looked at the impertinent little orb and rage welled up inside him. But he was old and he was smart. He let the anger flow over him, around him, floated in its black waters only until his eyes were left peering over the surface. "Thank you, Glint," he said, his voice calm. "I will call for you again if I need you." Glint beeped with pride, dipped in the air respectfully, and zipped away through the stacks of contraband. So the reason I read this card is that it's pretty important. We can see Spider and Glint having a conversation here about who Uldren was in the past and who the Crow is now. Spider wants Glint to keep the Crow out of the shadows and not let anyone find out that he was Uldren Sov, but Glint says it's bound to happen anyway, and I'm sure us as an audience can see that as well. The Crow himself even questions who he was in the past a couple of times. One was in one of the cards here where he and Glint are trying to name each other. They don't know what to call each other yet, and here's how that went. The ghost flew down to eye level, where its shell appeared indescent purple in the firelight. "I have had several good names already," it replied. "I enjoyed some of them quite a bit." The light bearer shook his head. "You said I had a name before as well, but you won't tell me what it was." "Can't," it corrected him. The light bearer fell silent. So the rest of that card, Crow figures out Glint as a name for his ghost, and they still don't know what he's going to be called yet, the light bearer. But in the next morning, we see something crazy happen. It says, "The next morning, a passerby saw Glint's light bearer without his helmet. The Titan beat him mercilessly with her flaming hammer, snapping his collarbone and crushing his pelvis. He died hours later of internal hemorrhage. Glint brought him back, and the pair traveled in silence for a long while."
Last, and most certainly least, Uldren Sov, traitor to his people, and the man who pulled the trigger. He may be in the wind, but his barons are ripe for the picking. Divide, conquer, isolate Uldren. He'll wind up at your feet, and all you have to do is pull the trigger.
So we can see just how important it is that Spider wanted him to keep, his helmet on and not show anybody who he really is. Uldren doesn't know this, but he's getting beat up, called names and all of this stuff constantly because of what he did in his past life, and he has no idea what that was. Now Spider even took this as far as modifying Glint's shell. "Stop!" Crow cried as the Spider wedged a flat tool between Glint's shell plates. "No!" With a snap, Spider popped one of the casings off. Then he looked up to the Crow and switched tools. "Don't worry," the Spider said in soothing reassurance that flowed like ice through Crow's veins. "I'm just going to make some modifications," he said, igniting a cutting torch, "to better protect you from the world." So it might seem realistic that a Guardian could uncover their past life before they were revived, but it makes things even more simple when you had a super high position in that previous life and everyone knows who you were. This of course is the case with the Crow. He had countless Guardians beat him up and even kill him because they can easily recognize that he was the prince that killed Cayde and unleashed that Scorn army. Let's next talk about if someone told Crow about his past life as Uldren Sov, what would they tell him, and which of these would our Guardian not really want him to know about? First up, Mara and the Awoken. Crow knows that he is Awoken and that there are others out there that are Awoken as well, but what he could find out is that his sister Mara is the queen of the Awoken and he once ruled at her side. Uldren would once aid her needs and even controlled his own spy devices of drones that he called the Crows. And with Mara most likely to return in the Witch Queen expansion given her recent dialogue, she could possibly be the one to tell them if they run into each other, or someone else could.
My brother was strong, clever, devoted, but suggestible. I knew my plans put him at risk. I was not surprised to feel him die.
The father of the Scorn. Uldren, although was corrupted by the darkness and Riven, did lead the Scorn army. With some of the new cards, we see an encounter that Crow has with one of these Scorn where they say this to him. And it was the light that kept Crow from madness, even as the voice of the thing echoed through his mind. Father, 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 father. So it's kinda bad that even the Scorn, these alien beings of Fallen, recognize Uldren being brought back as the Crow and still call him their father. Killing Cayde. Here is the big one and the reason most people hate him to begin with. Uldren killed Cayde 6, one of the most important guardians that helped defend the last safe city. He was our leader, and he was slaughtered at the hands of Uldren Sov with his own weapon. And lastly, our guardian killed Uldren. Up to this point, thanks to last season, our guardian is one of Crow's closest and trusted friends next to his own ghost Glint. But what happens if Crow learns that we are the one that killed him in Forsaken? Now Petra was there too, she may have fired a shot. There's a lot of debate around that, so maybe they say that she actually killed him instead of us. But this makes things so much more interesting for sure that we possibly killed him and now we're best friends. So would we still be friends? Would Bungie work with that sort of plotline a bit? It's a big question for sure.
It doesn't feel real. Freedom. Why would you do this for us?
Because you're a guardian.
But at some point, Crow is going to leave the Tangled Shore. Given some new lore posted on Bungie.net, it looks like that's going to happen this season. Glint says you can drink all the ethanol you like once we're in the last city. The new guardian and his ghost watch the sun set over the rugged tree line of the EDZ. In the pine-scented stillness, Crow was suddenly anxious. He imagined the great throngs of people in the city, hundreds of thousands of people, so many people all armed with the secret of his forgotten past. If they learned what Crow himself didn't know, what would they... What else do you want to try? Glint's tone was light, but his shell flaps were furrowed in concern. We deserve to celebrate. We can do anything you want, as long as I know, Glint, I know, as long as nobody sees your face. Crow imitated the chipper digital voice of his ghost and then smiled ruefully. I wouldn't even know where to start. Food, maybe? I'm tired of everything tasting like gun oil and ether. So at this point, Osiris then comes out of the forest behind them and kinda startles them. They talk for a little bit and then it says this. Osiris smiled beneath his cowl. We need to talk about how we're going to get you into the city. Our first priority is getting you some new clothes. Crow looked down at the sigil of the spider emblazoned across his chest. Probably a good idea. I have new gear for you aboard my ship. Osiris beckoned the pair back into the forest. You can change while we wait for nightfall. As Crow followed in the warlock's footsteps, he once again imagined the crush of the last city. He could feel the weight of humanity pressing in around him, the mass of flesh and accusing eyes, the looming walls closing in around him. Crow's rumination was broken as they stepped from the trees into a clearing with a beat-up jump ship parked in the center. Osiris paused at the foot of the loading ramp and turned to face Crow. There will come a time when your identity, your past, can no longer stay hidden. Crow felt a tightness in his chest as he imagined the whole city, all of humanity, staring at him. And when that time comes, the warlock continued, remember this moment. One exile to another, you can trust me. They clasped hands, and for a fleeting moment, Crow wondered if he might find acceptance after all. So we can see that Crow has a new look in the trailer thanks to Osiris. Now I'm not sure at this point if he's visited the city, but it seems like he's met with Zavala at least, so there's that. I don't know if Zavala knows who he is, if he knows that he was Uldren Sov, but Osiris says he'll have Crow's back if anyone figures out his past and starts a fuss. It will be interesting to see how this plays out though. Will Crow emerge as a speaker type character now that the Traveler actually talked to him in that Hawkmoon mission? We know the old speaker said that he spoke to the Traveler, but he never said it spoke to him, but Crow is different, it actually has spoken to him. Or will he just sort of stay in the background in the shadow and try to stay out of the spotlight so others don't find out who he is? Either way though, the Crow will most likely learn about his past as Uldren Sov at some point, right? It seems almost inevitable.
Everything I did for her. For you. Everything he did to save you.
If things get ugly for us in here, just know it's not your fault. Everything I did because I wanted to. Thank you for letting me have a choice.
Anyway, Guardians, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you'd like to see some more others just like it, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. My name's Evade, and I'll catch you Guardians in the next one.